Hey everybody, in this 1000x cursor video, we are going to talk about all about .cursor rules file. You can use .cursor rules in many creative and innovative ways, which I'll be covering in multiple videos, including turning cursor into an agent to perform multiple tasks. But in this video, we are going to look at the traditional way of just using regular instructions and the step-by-step method, which is my favorite. We'll take a look at it in the second part. Now, you could watch the rules for AI video that I made before this one. If you like, because this rules will be actually present when we are using the .cursor rules file. I like to think of rules for AI as the meta prompt, which can apply to any one of my projects, and cursor rules is being more particular to a project at hand. So normally speaking, we can just write our regular instructions here, and both the chat, the composer, and the command K will actually automatically read this cursor rules file. For example, just as an example, we can write something like, for example, if we were to write here, only respond with emojis and come to chat and just say hi, then we should only get a respond with an emoji. Same should happen with composer, but composer may reply with larger uh, response. I mean, at the end of the day, there's also a separate system message that the cursor users uses to actually power the composer agent in the normal edit mode. So just keep that in mind. Adjust the cursor rules to fit your needs accordingly. The general way to use the .cursor rules file is just to write your instructions. For example, we can say a continuous, let me actually use voice dictation. Use chat with a GPT-4o model. Okay, let me fix that with a GPT-4o model from the terminal, let's say. And then we can go to Composer and switch to Agent, and then we can say implement this. And we don't need to put in any context. It will know it automatically. So we can actually just run this, and it should hopefully implement along with the correct implementation with the chat completions and everything, including the model names, because we have those in the rules for AI. Okay, it's writing our chat here, as you can see. Yeah, so this actually looks correct, except it made a mistake with the model name. But as you can see, our variables are at the top because that is mentioned in our rules for AI. So let's zoom out a little bit and run this. So this should be now a terminal chat application. It didn't actually take user input. We can now say, maybe add something like we will take user input from the terminal. We can now go back to the original input box here in the composer, or actually perhaps here we can say update this. We could have gone back here and say implement this, so it'll write it from scratch, or we can just try update this. Maybe this is a better way to show that once you update your cursor rules, you can use something like this. It's better to specify. That's why which steps are being updated. But here it understood us. Continuous chat taking user input from the terminal. Now it's updating this file, but we'll see this actually being used better as with the step-by-step approach, because as you're building your application, a lot of times maybe you don't have the perfect full idea of where the application should go. So you can actually build it iteratively, and rather than, for example, instead of building it iteratively here in the chat or the composer chat, where you are giving instructions and accumulating the enhancements to your app, you can actually accumulate them in .cursor rules file. You can do it just like traditionally like this as well. But if you use the step-by-step approach, which we'll check out here in a moment, then I think you'll end up with a clear description of your app in a single file while being able to iterate continuously. So now we are taking user input. So let's run this app. And now we can just say hi. And assistant, we're getting the assistant response. So we just build a chat app that works from the terminal. So now let's explore the step-by-step approach. Let's just clear all of these things, and we can actually go back up to our composer and click restore. When we do that, you see that all the files that were created are deleted now. Okay, so now let's talk about the step-by-step approach. Here, I'm writing some instructions saying fast API, beautiful web app with pastel yellow, green, and purple colors and gradients. Header should have an animated www.echohive.live at the top left and welcome GPT-4 at the center. Let's go ahead and again say implement this. So it'll go ahead and implement, also taking into consideration our rules for AI, which says that we will be using Daisy UI, Tailwind, and dark mode. There's some instructions related to web apps. But as you can see, normally this step-by-step approach is really useful, especially when you're building web apps, because you can start from the top, such as the header, and work your way down and from left to right, and you can really truly work with it. And I think we need to select the agent here, and let me run this again. While this is building, I'll mention that uh, we can actually work with the step one and get the header right. And after that, we can continue with step two and maybe get the body of the website working. As you can see, this step-by-step approach was going to allow us to build everything iteratively, while at the same time building a full description of our app. Since we'll be updating it dynamically, then we'll know that at least once this entire sets of descriptions or steps have worked with cursor. And our index.html just got done writing, and we can see that it's using the Daisy UI and anime.js as instructed, along with Tailwind. These instructions were in rules for AI. Okay, now we can run our main.py because it should run the app directly by running the main.py as instructed. And then we can now go to the web app and see that it has taken into consideration the color colorations we said. So this looks nice. Let's say we could have maybe enhanced this by, let's make an update to step one just to show you how I would do it. Now you can go ahead and just write your instructions, such as make the title colorful as well. We could say that, but instead, maybe I'd like to do something like update one, maybe, perhaps. You can even tab it if you like. And then therefore we can say update this, and hopefully it'll understand us. Let's see what it'll say. Yeah, I'll update the UI, make it more colorful with some additional animations. Okay, it's taking some liberties, but we could have also said update this according to the first update, for example, or implement. We could have said maybe implement update one. Let's try that. It was going to go ahead and do what we wanted, but just to be precise, that's why I think it can be more useful to separate your updates like this as well. And it's now going to make GPT-4o chat to be more colorful. Let's confirm by refreshing, and it has done that exactly. Our server automatically reloads. So, in essence, once you are while you are building, you can also use Control K to say write these in a more organized way. You know, you can try things like that too. There you go. So, I mean, this can actually add stuff that you don't want, such as it's picking some colors. But you can always do this. We are not going to do it, but at the end, if you want a better organization, you can try to go. But let's go ahead and say now, step two, and let me write some instructions. Okay, just a simple instruction. Please implement a ChatGPT. I used ChatGPT like chat interface, and we can say, please implement step two. So as you can see, I'm going from top to bottom and building the app slowly as I'm going along, changing little things if necessary. I'm curious, we didn't actually mention anything about GPT-4o. I'm curious if it's going to update our backend with the API calls. Yeah, it is actually. It actually understood that. Okay, both files are applied. I believe now we can just refresh, I mean. Here we go. Let's see if this is working. And yeah, MS simulated response API endpoints needs to be implemented. Okay, it didn't implement the API endpoint, just returning a simulated response. So at this point, we can say we can add an update, for example. Please implement API call to chat with GPT-4o. And now we can maybe try update. It's always best to explicitly say what you want it to do, like say if you were the number update to, or we could have said update step 2. But usually, if you want to be fast, this oftentimes works. But just read what composer is telling you to see if it understands you. Here, in this case, it understood us, so it's updating the requirements to add OpenAI and Pydantic for some type validation. But here, I believe we are done. If you go to main.py, it has implemented our API call. So now, hopefully, instead of a simulated message, we should get an actual message. Undefined. Yeah, chat completion cannot be used in a await expression. So this can happen because what happened is we are importing the regular OpenAI library and we are trying to make an async call. We were supposed to import async OpenAI. Let's see if we were to copy this error message. I'm wondering if it'll fix it. Let's try that. Or we can explicitly tell it to import the async OpenAI, but you may not know about it. And it doesn't need to be awaited actually, but uh, it's going to fix it the other way around. So the point of this is that when you're interacting with the composer here in this chat sidebar, you're going to be both building your app and fixing error messages and adding features. When you separate your general features and concerns into step-by-step instructions here, you can use this side panel to experiment, for example, and to fix these types of errors. So hopefully now it should be fixed. Now when we say hi, we get a response. So let's go ahead and implement this step 3, which is to say, let's say implement a beautiful side panel. Let's say side panel with all the bells and features of a ChatGPT conversation histories. So I'm not being very descriptive here, but I can say here implement step 3. We want to implement a side panel with chat histories. I'm just going to start with all the bells and features. Hopefully it'll understand that and implement all the features. If not, we can find out which features are missing and actually upgrade or update the step 3. But I hope you're getting the general gist of this. Here, you can also have additional instructions like app specs or something. You can specify additional information here, maybe API call docs, and input some special API calls such as Perplexity or something. This doesn't only have to be composed of steps. This is just a general guideline I'm showing you. Feel free to get creative with it because this is by no means written in stone. Okay, it seems to claim to have done this. Usually, it's great. It's a great idea to check what it's doing, but we are going fast and debugging on the fly. So now, when we do this, see we can create a new chat. This is our old chat, and there seems to be some issues. But let's create a new chat and say hi. And when we go back to old chats, we can maybe take a snapshot of this. I'm just going to take a snapshot of this here because if you notice the issue is that when I switch between chats, it's hello, how can I assist you is just being added. Let me try to describe it. Okay, so when I switch between chats, there seems to be multiple instances of hello, how can I assist you appearing in all of them. How can we fix this, please? Identify and find a solution. Okay, let's fix this problem. I'm going to go ahead and accept all, that is to accept the previous changes. So it is claiming that it has found the issue. Initial greeting message every time we switch conversations. So it is claimed to have. So now Let me come back here and refresh, create a new chat. Okay, the old chats still have it, but at least the new one. Let's see, it still seems to be occurring. Let me start from scratch. Okay, so all of these are actually saved in our local storage. So let's bring up by doing Control Shift I, the developer tools, and let's go to application. And here are the conversations. I'm just going to delete these. And when I reload, I see that they're all cleared. New chat. So, okay, it still seems to be happening. Let's take another issue. Let's paste it again. The problem is still occurring. Please take a look carefully, identify the problem, and implement a robust fix. Let's say that. Let's see if this works. So if this doesn't work, so there are multiple ways of going about this, right? There's always this tendency, well, it didn't implement it the correct way the first time around, so we can actually go back and allow it to re-implement it. But maybe we can give it a few opportunities to fix it. Usually speaking, in my experience, trying to get it to implement it right the first time around works out better. But there's also the consideration of being in the flow. It's more pleasurable to continue rather than going backwards. So keeping both in mind, we'll give both a try. Let's refresh. Let's go ahead and clear the conversation history again. And when we reload, okay, problem is fixed. So that's great. So if we were to say hi, we should get a response hopefully. Let's see, let's take a look at our console. We are now getting an error in the console because we weren't getting a response. So now let's copy this error message, paste it here. We can just send this, or we can say this is the error we see in console, and we are not seeing the AI response. It's better to be more explanatory, but you could have just sent the error message as well. Okay, it claims to have found the issue. Let's see if it'll fix it. So we're not changing our cursor rules file because we are just fixing some errors because we're not adding any features. As you can see now, we have separated the process into two. Okay, let's refresh. Now let's say hi. Okay, now we are getting a response. And when we make a new chat, and how are you? And we are also updating the chat messages here, and we can switch between them. So this looks pretty cool. The colorations look nice. But we can't delete old messages. So let's go ahead and this shall be our final step. We can maybe say step 4 and implement ability to delete conversation history. And then we can say, please apply step 4. And now it should implement our final step. But the point here was that we've built it from kind of like top to bottom, and then we then added a panel and we just build it in a step by step fashion. But at the end, what we ended up with is an entire description of our app. So after getting this deletion of history working, let's actually delete everything and try to get it to implement this full application from scratch. Now that we have the full implementation recorded. Okay, yeah, now we have a little trash button and we can now delete old conversation histories. We can create new ones and everything seems to be working, and delete it. So that is great. So we have implemented everything that we wanted. So in that case, let's go back up. Let me go to the very top and restore because we're going to go back to the very beginning and even delete this static folder. Let's create a new composer in agent mode We don't have to explicitly refer to the cursor rules file. It's always taken into consideration. And let's say implement this app in full with all the steps. Let's see how it'll do. Normally, this is not advisable because if it may just work perfectly this time around, but if you ask Cursor or I should say Cloud 3.5 Sonnet to do a lot of things in one go, it will have more of a tendency to make mistakes. But since we have it, if we have everything separated into steps, and the second time around, we can even maybe remove the update and include this uh, update as a regular instruction as well. Just keep that in mind. Because we were working in a step-by-step fashion, we wanted to separate it into an update. But even if it fails doing this, we can then ask it to update or implement the steps that are missing. Secondly, we can also ask it not to implement it in full, but maybe we can say, we could have said implement step 1 and 2 first, or not step 3 and 4. So once you have this cursor rules file built, what I'm saying is that you can update it, add additional things, use it in full, or use it again in a step-by-step fashion. Okay, it's creating. This time it's separated the app.js. As you can see, we have our API call. Okay, it implemented it a little bit differently this time, but still the same thing. We are still using anime.js. Let's see what this looks like. I'm actually going to rerun this and go to our local host. And yeah, so it did it a little bit differently. It didn't do this one very colorfully, but it is a much nicer animation. And here is our conversation. But as you can see, there's no button to create a new conversation. Maybe then we can go ahead and say here that we need a way to create new conversations. And then if it applies this, then we actually have our full app. But as you can see, that each time you run this, it's going to be slightly different. And the colors aren't fully there, but we still see some green and some yellow here, and also in the background color over here. Okay, it has updated the index.html, which should be enough, I believe. Yeah, new chat. Yeah, it's going to also update the JavaScript. Yeah, it's doing that now. But it added the new chat button, and we have this X to be able to delete old conversations once all of this works. Okay, app.js is updated. Now let's see, new chat. These buttons don't seem to be working properly. Let's see if we have any error messages. No, let's reload again. Let's take a look at our console, see if you're getting any error messages. So we would come back here and say that both the new, let's say neither the new chat button or the delete button are working. Please fix. So at this point, we are just trying to fix some few simple errors, but we have our app ready and for the most part working. I'm sure we can get these fixed pretty quickly. But as you can see, when you ask it to build an app, full app from scratch, it can struggle more than if you were to build it in an iterative fashion. And the whole point of the step-by-step cursor rules is to make this process more pleasurable, more understandable, and more user-friendly. So essentially, this is the end of the video. Um, but we'll still wait to see if this will get fixed. Reload, new chat. Let me restart the server. Sometimes there can be an issue. Let's accept all of these. Yeah, it's still not working. So this is going to require some more prompting because we're not even getting an error in the console. Uh, let's see, but our messaging is working. Yeah. So that's just going to require some more prompting. But essentially, we have our rules file. We could have also said implement, for example, only, we could have said implement only step 1 and 2. And we could have gone more like a step by step approach. We can go ahead and delete this, I believe. Yeah. So, well, thank you. And this is part of my 1000x cursor course. And if you do become a patron, you will be able to access the full 30 chapters, each of which is building a full app from scratch. I try to share everything I learn over 4,000 hours of experience and building with Cursor. As you can see, we are only implementing step 1 and 2. That is also going to include our API call, which it has done. So now when we reload, we should see a different design slightly. Maybe this is still working. It's still yet to write the index.html, but this is to demonstrate that you can, once you have your step-by-step cursor rules, you can implement it one step or several steps at a time. Yeah, here it has re-implemented our app, but as you can see, we're missing the side panel. Let's see quickly if this actually works. No, there are some errors. Oh, it's still generating JavaScript, that's why. But we don't have the side panel because that's included in step 3 and 4. So you can still go step by step. Okay, the JavaScript is written. We can now try, and yeah, it seems to be working. So this concludes it. There's also a lot of creative ways you can use the cursor rules file to make a cursor become agentic and use tools. I'll be covering those in a separate video. I hope you enjoy this. And if you are a patron, thank you for being a patron. If you're considering it, thank you for your consideration. Take care.